see a lot more guys coming through the door that are younger with low testosterone than I've ever seen before.
What's something that you're working on, either spiritually, physically, financially, in the future that you're currently working on to kind of get excited about?
My goal is to just try to help people do something that maybe they don't know how to do. You can't sit there and compare. I'll tell you that is like, you're going to be miserable.
What is most guys, in your opinion, like the biggest struggles that they're facing?
Don't do something now that creates a problem later. I teach people how to fish. I don't give them the fish.
All right, so welcome back to this week's episode number 10 of the Brighter Side Podcast. My guest today is Jeff Delaney of T Clinics here in Naples. He also is the founder and owner of Nuviva, which is a weight loss clinic, and we are going to get into it today. I'm also someone that goes to the T Clinic for some peptide stuff, and I'm going to ask Jeff a bazillion questions today on health, fitness, weight loss. We're going to cover it all, men, women, and hope I got enough time to get all these questions. And I was telling him before the episode started that I wasn't even sure how to break it down because I had just so many personal questions in my own weight loss journey and fitness journey that I feel like I could be selfish and steal his time, but I'm going to make sure that I cover it for everybody. So without further ado, Jeff, I always start off the episode by just kind of letting you give yourself kind of an introduction into kind of like who you say Jeff is and what you're about. And then I'm going to kind of dive into it.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Jeff's just a guy. You know, it's like I'm a normal person. I truly have a passion my whole life just to help other people out. You know, I found my niche early in health, wellness, nutrition. Thought it was going to be regular healthcare, and kind of real quick switched past as far as regular healthcare to more preventive or proactive healthcare. And I think a lot of that has to go back to just like, you know, a lot of the issues we face as we get older, we could fix, we could adjust, or we could prevent a good chunk of it. And most people don't know how. Yeah. So my goal is to just try to help people do something that maybe they don't know how to do. And unfortunately, in the world we live today, I think there's so much information, misinformation, or just confusing information. So, you know, my goal is hopefully just educate people and let them make educated decisions on their health.
Yeah. So yeah, you hit it on the head as far as just like, you know, the confusion alone, just if we start even there of, like, you know, I mean, there's so many different diets and so many different, you know, regimens, like, you know, strength training, cardio training, you know, carnivore diet, keto, all the different things where it's like, you know, I mean, it just like for me, even sometimes, and I have like a background in this to some degree, even I get confused, or I second guess myself. And so I want to actually ask you some of those questions here in a second, but I wanted to kind of ask you just like your journey, like how did you get to Naples? Like you've been here for a while, I know, like over 20 years.
Yes, 2001.
2001.
So I was originally from Northeast Ohio, grew up, you know, Ohio's an amazing place to be from.
Sure.
Didn't want to stay there. You know, just early in life, you know, I was always interested in the gym and health and wellness. My dad actually used to take me on the weekends. He would have me, and I mean, I would sit there and I had to sit and be good to be able to do some weights. And so I'd sit there and just read magazines and books, and it just kind of like, I knew pretty early on where I wanted to be, at least what kind of space. You know, fast forward, I played some sports, played college football at Mount Union College. Got injured. So I kind of started more down the path. I thought I was going to go more sports medicine, or, you know, more like I contemplated chiropractic, but it was more sports med at the time. I was always doing nutrition for kids in high school and college. It was just kind of, I would always like, they would come to me for supplement questions or nutrition questions. You know, I kind of fast forward, I went to cardiopulmonary school, respiratory school, you know, started PA school, thought I wanted to be a PA, and kind of shortly between there and working critical care, I just realized like, you know, I would rather start helping people early on, you know, prevent getting to the end stage, or wish they could have done something different. And that's when I kind of dove back into more like the preventive healthcare, nutrition, you know, physical activity, the things that you could do on your own that have the biggest ROI. You know, now in the fast forward to the world we're in today, you know, there's tons of things you could do. There's a lot of stuff out there, you know, with social media, just people here, you know, should I do this or should I do that? Or should I take this peptide or should I take this? Should I go on hormone therapy? And, it's not cookie cutter. It shouldn't be cookie cutter. And there's a ton of stuff out there, but there's also, I'm big into like, what's going to give you the biggest ROI. So kind of when I got down here, I was mostly coaching athletes. In 2005, my partner actually came to me and wanted to add a weight loss component to the existing HRT practice, hormone replacement practice. And so that's kind of where New Life at the time was birthed. And kind of when I did that program, it was more like there was tons of programs out there. There's Medi Weight Loss and some of these other places, but they never truly tried to fix the problem. To where, a lot of what I do is back to textbook nutrition, just fixing the foundation and making it super simple. So I was like, well, if we're going to do it, we're going to try to fix the problem. We're not just going to, here's a shot, here's a pill, see you next week. It's like, let's make sure we do it right and then keep it off. So that kind of evolved over the years. And I became a franchise in 2010. Went down that path. Franchising is very tough.
I think I've heard you speak on that.
It's just hard to give somebody your baby, and and for me,
I'm the same thing. Like give as much as you do.
Give as much as I do, and run it the way some people. I feel like sometimes franchisees look at it; they just care about the business, whereas I've always cared about the person. And the rest will follow. So that was a tough road. I had 18 clinics, scaled it back to 6. I'm back to 10 really good clinics now throughout Florida. While that was going on, I started seeing a big demand for male hormone therapy done right. I feel like everyone was just very basic therapy. And so, a lot of guys trying to lose weight, if their hormones are off, it's like being in an IndyCar race with a flat tire, I always say like you're driving your boat with the anchor down, so it was like, let's start fixing this and fix it right. And that's kind of where T clinics became, or actually eventually progressed to T clinics. It was Naples Testosterone, which turned into Naples Wellness, which eventually became T clinics. So I tried to soften it up a little bit because I don't do just testosterone replacement. So
maybe let me back up real quick. Did T clinics come before anything else, or was the weight loss actually first, then T clinics?
So my partner Alex actually had a hormone replacement clinic called Human Performance. That's kind of where New Life or Nuviva was birthed into that. So he was dealing more just hormone therapy. It was kind of still taboo then. It wasn't really a mainstream like it is now.
Oh, gotcha.
So I focused more on the weight loss, just long-term weight management side. And then, that kind of overtook that. So that kind of got put to the back burner. And, fast forward, it was just, I got tired of seeing other places not do it right, and I could do it better. And more cost effective. I'm big into, you shouldn't have deep pockets to take care of your health. So, a lot of what I do is a lot of stuff, outside of like medications or peptides, like a lot of the stuff that's going to help you out is super free and cheap. And, I would say the 3 pillars: your nutrition, your training, and your sleep. And it's like getting people to really stop looking for the shot or the pill, but focus on those things first. And then you start filling the gaps afterwards.
Yeah. I don't know if you, so I'll use myself as a test subject. So, I actually didn't know when I first met you. So I met Jeff at church. We were going to Grow Church together. I was frustrated with my weight loss. It's like, man, this is not coming off. Something's going on. I mean, maybe I got a little testosterone or whatever. I'm walking out of church and he had a T clinic shirt on. And I thought, I'll just ask this guy, like, hey, is this place any good or whatever? And I didn't even know he's the owner. He didn't even say anything, which I thought was kind of cool. You're like, I'm the owner. You just kind of said, hey, call. And then I found out Jeff's the owner. So anyways, long story short, I go in, get my blood work done, which is how it generally starts, right? You'll go in, just get some blood work done. And then about a week later, so they come back in to get the results and kind of like, hey, what can we do? What should you do? Here's what we found. And so Jeff comes walking out of I don't know if you remember this, but Jeff comes walking out of the office and we don't really know each other very well. And he's like, kind of like, hey man, like, are you taking some like over the counter stuff or whatever? And I was like, dude, if you knew who I was, like my mom like abused pills her whole life before it was like a thing. And like, I'm like so scared of medicine. Like I'm like the last thing I would ever do. I mean, even taking a Tylenol, I'm like, if it says take 2, I'll take 1, it's like, I like, do not take a chance on something. And you're like, cause you're like 1,400 or 1,500. And that's like crazy high, and like I can't even really like do anything that high. And I was like, no, like I am not I don't know if that's like,
every now and then I get some guys that have good levels, and it's kind of one of those things where, but it's funny is like you could go other places and they're like, we'll get you on testosterone. It's like, well, that's not the problem. So let's start working down the line.
Yeah, I can testify to like that's not. He pretty much was kind of like, well, I'm not saying we can't help you, but
yeah,
testosterone. So I was like, pretty much you're confirming to me that my diet sucks and my workouts suck because like I'm like so high in testosterone that I should be like jacked if I'm doing the right stuff. And so that was actually my first true experience at that time. And then anyway, so that was just kind of like my first introduction. And actually, I didn't end up doing anything.
Yeah.
I just kind of chickened out. I mean, they gave you guys, I can't remember the guy's name at the time, but gave me some options. And I just was like, I don't know. And I ended up not doing anything. Fast forward to like now I'm taking some peptides, which we'll get into because I want to ask you about some of that stuff. But I just thought that was kind of a crazy first intro because I don't know. I mean, like it's 1400. I feel like you at the time.
Well, and I always say like you have total testosterone, how much is in your system, and then you have free testosterone is how much is unbound. So if you have a good total but your free is not good, sometimes you have some of the clinical symptoms. But then we start looking, okay, if it's not freed up, what else could we adjust? Do we got to drop estrogen? Do we have to maybe help out with sex hormone? Which I know a lot of people are like, what is he talking about? But like, there's things we could do to optimize. But your levels were decent, and it's one of those things. Don't fix it if it's not broke.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, let's go back to the things that first off, like how's your sleep? How's your training? How's your food?
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like, okay, well, what are my goals? And then let's start kind of picking the things that's going to support your goals. So it's not just, my friend takes tests, I'm going on test or, it's just making sure that whatever you do, it's your health. You should be a sniper as far as like what you're going to do and, do what's necessary, but don't just do things. Cause sometimes like say you would have went on testosterone, and say 2 years down the road, you're like, well, I don't want to be on it no more. And now your levels are worse than they started. So I never want to push anybody that way or just make them do something that maybe they're not fully aware of what could happen. And there's other things you could do to optimize it, which you have. I mean, you've changed quite a bit since, then.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's a struggle bus currently, but so what do you think men, like what do you think most men, we'll start with men because we'll talk about the ladies too, but what do you think most men like just in America are dealing with when it comes to, let's just say, out of their 20s or starting to maybe 25 and up that are starting to like maybe get out of that post high school if they were athletes or whatever, and they're not having PE every day and they're getting into the real world and they're working and jobs and now all of a sudden fitting all this stuff in, whether it's, the gym or eating healthy, like what is most guys in your opinion, like their biggest struggles that they're facing, like currently just in.
I mean, I'll tell you to kind of start, I see a lot more guys coming through the door that are younger with low testosterone than I've ever seen before. And I think a lot of it has to do with the world we live today is we're a lot more sedentary. COVID, I think, really made a lot of people sedentary.
Yeah.
It's like you're at home or you're working from home, and some of those jobs stayed working from home. And so, like, between being sedentary, their diet sucks, the food that we have, a lot of people are on the go. And so some of the food processing does play into that. I just think it starts catching up to them because they had some wiggle room when they were physically active. And now they're not so physically active, but their food habits didn't change or maybe got worse. And, they start putting on body fat, and usually with more body fat, lower testosterone. So, but I'll tell you, I'm shocked because like over the last probably 7 years, I'm seeing some low testosterone levels in guys that weren't like myself. I messed my own levels up. In high school, I took stuff I shouldn't have took to play college, and I cheated. I'm pretty open about it. And I screwed myself up at early age. That's how I got into hormones, was trying to fix myself. It wasn't really a thing back then. Nobody really did it. And so, but that's not the case. I'm seeing guys come in just their lifestyle is not allowing them to have a decent testosterone level. And let's face it, us men, as we get older, once we get, towards that 500 range with the free under 100, we start having a lot of the clinical symptoms. We're tired, lethargic. We don't sleep good. We don't recover quick. The motivation to do the stuff you used to do, you kind of lose. And, it just kind of snowballs. And so, for most men, and I do a lot of, I call it TBT therapy, testosterone boosting therapy, for a lot of the younger guys, just so they're not committing to something like long-term testosterone. So we can use certain things to kind of reboot the system and see if we can't pick the levels up. But not just that. It's like, all right, let's focus on these couple other things that are going to support and give you an overall better response. So we do a lot of like boosting therapy to get your levels to a decent level to where you're kind of back to your old self. It's, I always say we can't stop the process, but we could definitely slow it down. But like I just said earlier on, I'm like, if your T levels are subpar, it's like you put in the work, or you somewhat put in the work, you don't see the ROI from it because your hormones aren't supporting it. So,
yeah. So what about the ladies? Because I'm gonna kind of go somewhere. But what are ladies? What do you think, ladies? And you did. I didn't mention it earlier, but he said you just opened up a women's clinic called She Clinics.
Yep.
Right?
So it's kind of, I've always dealt with females at Nuviva and T clinics up until direct hormone therapy. For years, we didn't do it just because I was kind of busy with the existing businesses. And with female hormones, you have to be a lot more precise. There's a lot more potential for things to go wrong if you're not really kind of paying attention to detail. Women are a lot more difficult than men to manage. Guys are pretty simple. Females, it's doing what's necessary and then making sure you're keeping everything in line, homeostatic. If not, they have to worry about cervical cancer, uterine cancer, breast cancer. So, and I think over the last 5 years with the world of like hormone replacement, everybody's offering it now, not just the men, but to women. And, I would refer out to the better providers just because I didn't have the team or the time or the to be able to do it the way I feel it should be done. And I've maxed most of them out. But I've had a lot of females that were clients that maybe went to somebody else. They got on hormones maybe when they didn't need hormones, or they were on hormones, but they weren't managed right. And they've had issues that come up. So I just, it's been tugging on me for a couple of years. Like once I could get the space and the time and the providers to be able to do it, I could do it probably better and do it more cost effective and just make sure you're doing what's necessary for females. Now, females earlier in life, they tend to, and it depends on birth control. A lot of times solution for females, like let's throw you on birth control and suppress everything, acne, which creates a lot of problems. But, getting sometimes early in life, a lot of times females, just something as simple as progesterone can make a change in how they feel, make them feel less emotional, less crazy. That's a big one for females typically under like 35, 40. And then, as women get older and they start going through perimenopause, menopause, they tend to need some direct hormone therapy. It's just the question is how are you going to do it? And then are you being specific? I just feel like it's kind of now there's, not that I'm looking to add something to my plate, but I feel like it's almost my like
duty or something,
duty to be able to do it and offer it, and just hopefully not like, because I have a lot of females that think they need hormone therapy because their friends on hormone therapy, and I'm like, no, and so just to try to at least guide them in the right direction and make sure that they're super precise. But a lot of times with females, I mean, they have a tougher road when it comes to body composition, weight management, and then you throw hormones off, it definitely makes things more difficult for females. So
today's episode is sponsored by Go to Golf. They are my go-to for golf attire, polos, hats, putters, putter covers, accessories, whatever it is golf, they got it. They do a limited merch drop every single month. You can go to goated.golf to find out what their latest merch drop is. Go check them out. So I think that, and this is like kind of my own, when I was preparing for this show, just because I had so many questions, and I think that, this is more and more common, like testosterone, things like that. And, like you said, whether you need it or whether you don't, you need to go to somewhere that's like trusted, that's going to tell you, like in my case, man, you don't need it. Like you're good. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's other things you can do depending on your goals. But I think when it comes to, so like with myself, I'm taking BPC 157, which is helping like with my joints and just like, I was just like feeling like I'm going to the gym, kind of doing the things I am. And I feel like I'm achier than I should be, or that I want to be, you know what I mean? And so it's like, ultimately, like it's helping like my gut health and things like that, which I didn't really think I had any issues until it's like, I started taking it. And then I realized I'm like, when I was just telling my wife, like, I think over the like last weekend or something like that, I was out for like 4 days. I didn't have it. And I can like tell, like, it was like all of a sudden I was like, man, my stomach is different. So it's like, for me, I started with just that. Right. And that was going well. That's pill form, really easy, no side effects. I'm always worried about like, and I'm sure you hear this like a million times, but I know there's people that are listening that are probably thinking it's always the side effects. It's like, what if, in fact, a lot of times with side effects, even if it's like I go to the doctor and I got a cold or something, they give me something, like I have my wife read the side effects, because if I read it, I will like instantly start like, oh, yep, I'm feeling like I got a twitch or I got a thing. I don't want to know.
You're the guy that Googles it. And next thing you know, like
I can't help it. Yeah. And then all I'm thinking about is like the looking for all the negatives in it, because I'm like, oh, I knew I shouldn't have took this. And that probably goes back to like, I need to sit down with like a therapist or something based on what I've seen as a kid. But anyways, it's been a good thing, because it's cautioned me to like not just take something and
no, well, you should be. I mean, you definitely, it's your health, and so it's like, don't do something now that creates a problem later. So it's smart that more people should be more, unfortunately most people are like, give me all the drugs, like whatever the drugs are.
I'm cautious, but I think there's definitely people that are out there. But then you start getting into like some of the peptides that are injectable. And let's see, so is it Samoralin?
They're kind of go back to real quick. I was going to say to your BPC. BPC is kind of, if I had to pick one, that's it. Oral BPC. I kind of call that Windex. If you ever seen The Big Fat Greek Wedding, it's literally fixes not just because it's a gastric pentadecapeptide that actually heals your gut lining, leaky gut. So just most people's gut in the world we live are screwed, or if people are eating like high inflammatory foods, common ones like wheat, dairy, gluten, but then you have also individualized, there's foods that we eat that create inflammation, and you could check them on AllCat, or I could say like a cheap way if you want to do it is eat per your blood type, and most of those foods on the green list will drastically change your gut. So I'm big, this is our second brain. And if you take care of your gut, it changes so much down the road.
It's a good one to start with. And kind of what you're saying, if somebody's wanting to go, hey, maybe I should do a couple of these, but this is just aside from testosterone. Yep. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of ask you your opinion on was when it comes to injectables, like, something that you have to inject and it's just a little tiny needle. I know it. And I was taking Samoralin for like, maybe, I don't know, man, like not very long. Yep. There's just, I don't know what it is about the injection. It's not that it hurts. It's not that it's, why is that just like, why is it, do you hear that a lot with like, as soon like as it becomes injectable,
to do it, or?
Well, no, just like, I don't know. I guess it feels like once I'm injecting something, like, it's bad.
You're full blown doing drugs.
It's bad or something. Like, what is that? Just the way we've been programmed?
Yeah, I think most people are never giving themselves a shot either. So a lot of times you seem like it's a lot more. I don't want to say more like almost like it's pretty important, or pretty like, because a lot of times you think, okay, well, if I'm getting an injectable, a shot at the doctor, it must be super important or super necessary. And it might be something that's like, pretty strong or pretty important. So, it's like versus something you're just going to randomly do at home. Yeah. So I think just, you maybe place a lot more risk to that, I guess. You feel like it's maybe something that's, that you shouldn't be doing, I guess.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if that's like,
but unfortunately a lot of peptides, and there's 7,000 peptides out there. And I say this all the time, there's, 20, 25 that are really, really good. Some are oral, most of them are injectable. But it's just best way to get it to be able to do what it needs to do, and kind of take a step back. Like peptides, what I love about peptides, and I try to go as natural as possible if you can, but peptides are basically sequences of amino acids or chains of proteins that initiate responses in your body to happen that aren't happening because maybe there's something going on, a medical condition, predisposition, or just the aging process that happens. So like Semarelin, which you're talking about, or Ipamorelin, or Ipamorelin CJC, or Testosterone, which is kind of one of the newer guys that a lot of people are on. Those are growth hormone peptides, or growth hormones, secretagogues that tell your pituitary to make more growth hormone. Right. Better than synthetic growth hormone, way safer than synthetic growth hormone, way cheaper than synthetic, with very little to no side effects. So it's just it's already like, it's naturally occurring. So.
Yeah. And I can honestly say, like, I didn't have any side effects. I don't know, man. I get these like thoughts of myself, like, what if I'm shooting this? It's going to make me go crazy. Yeah. Or like, when it's like realistically, like if it's, I mean, you're putting it in daily, or most of them are, I think it was 6 days a week for me. It's out of your, like, if someone like is listening and is like, yeah, well, what if I want to try it? And I'm like, I can honestly say I'm the safest person to listen to, because like I'm very cautious about anything. I didn't have any side effects, no headaches, no anything. I just like got kind of caught up. I actually was like looking forward to this because I was like, man, he's probably going to be able to give me some confidence. And I was traveling and fell off the workout thing. There was like other things that kind of contributed that made it easier for me to kind of go, maybe this isn't the right way to go. Cause I was like, I'd almost like kind of be anxious about it before bed. Like, okay, gotta go in here and like, yeah, like just, man, here goes. And like, you go in and it's like, it's literally so easy. Yeah. It's just
staying consistent with that. I think like I said, if you've never done, I think that's the hardest part for some people to give themselves a shot. And usually the subcutaneous shots with the insulin needles are super easy. I think most of my clients at both companies, they get okay with it. Like I said, not much pain with it, but just getting over that step of actually you doing it to yourself versus having somebody do it to you. And I think a lot of people have like a mental barrier block that they just can't do it. Yeah. So that's why a lot of times I do try to have the clients do it in clinic just to get them comfortable with the process. I do have videos that kind of walk through the videos process.
Is very easy. Like that's how I did it. And it was like, once you did it, you're like, oh, that's, fortunately I got a little fat on my belly.
But so I kind of class like I try not to carry things that have high potential risk, right? And things that could potentially create some problems. I think for that, you just got to almost like, even though it's something medical, it's an injectable amino acid or peptide, class it with like supplements. Like it's truly that safe. And honestly, there's probably some supplements out there that have way more potential risk or side effects than others. So, you're not replacing something. It's not like you're taking synthetic growth hormone. You're actually telling your body to make its own, which is what I like. So you're not, and some people are like, well, I feel like I'm cheating. You're not, you're just trying to optimize what your system's wanting to do or willing to do. It's only going to go so much.
I think that was kind of where I was going to go to. I think there's a little bit of an element to me that's like, it feels like, it feels like I'm cheating. It feels like, maybe I'm not working hard enough in the gym. And then that goes back to the confusion. I mean, if you just watch social media right now, I mean, you need a sauna, you need a cold plunge, you need an hour prayer, you need, to get up at 4:30.
Don't do seed oils.
Don't do seed oils and,
don't eat after 6, but make sure you eat at 8 p.m. Like it's like
every single meal at home, fast, and it's like, I'm not saying any of that's bad. I mean, I don't know what's your take on it? You're in this field way more than me. And I know saunas are good. I know cold plunging can be good, but it's like almost like, dang, I need like 12K just to get started on this weight loss.
I've said it before you go to some of those other modalities or certain types of things, focus on your food first. 80%. If food is medicine. I truly believe it. I've seen it. I've time and time again. Probably in Southwest Florida, we've seen over 100,000 patients. Wow. A lot. I've been at this for a while. Yeah. But it's like fixing your food can fix a lot of things. And that's kind of why that was like always so fascinating to me, is like, that's going to give you the biggest ROI. But unfortunately, that's the hardest thing for people to buckle down and do, and kind of put some consistency, discipline too. And, I feel like, but you don't got to be chicken and broccoli religious. It has just some consistency of being good. If you could live 70% decent and have some 30% of bad, you're going to be pretty good, like your body wise. But as far as like health markers, plaque deposition, cardiovascular issues that come up, hypertension, you name it, like if your food can fix it, now there comes a point where if your food's been so bad and you have some pre-existing things, medical intervention has to come in and start kind of holding where you're at. It's hard to reverse a lot of the damage depending on the damage. But, if you get on it early in life and you really focus on it, and then next to that would be sleep. And I kind of put sleep and training together. It's like if you're not sleeping, your body's not going to run like it should. You're not going to repair the damage you caused during the day. And then, when it comes to physical activity, it's like that's the thing that's going to, keep you metabolically in a better position, body composition better, and just make it to where you have a lot more wiggle room when it comes to food. But if you're not doing those 3 things, don't cold plunge. Don't buy a sauna. Yeah. Like, I feel like everyone wants to buy the thing and not do the work.
It's going to be like, oh, if I do this, then I'm going to be like, I mean, even like cold plunging, like I get it. I've cold plunged and it does feel good, but I'm like, the whole thing is, I don't know if that's like started with 75 hard kind of sort of like it came in all of a sudden, but it's like, oh, once you do this, you'll never face another. I was like, whatever, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, yeah, as soon as, I mean, from my perspective, yeah, as soon as one of my employees messes something up, that's way worse than getting into the cold plunge. It's
Yeah.
like customers mad at me. It's like, that's not really true. I mean, I understand like the concept of like, making yourself do something, whether it, in a
Something that's
transition,
hard.
like, making yourself get
Yeah.
out of bed, or you like, the more you condition your brain to do something difficult, the easier it is the next time to where like, even, and I do work out at like 4:45, and I mean, I get up and I mean, I am on a kind of autopilot to some degree. I'm like, I don't want to go, but here goes. And I just, it's kind of like a habit that I've created. Every once in a while the brain wins and I don't. And like today I actually got up and was like, I was ready to go in. But I think that it's just like, there's so much confusion out there with.
Well, and I think like COVID was great in my book. Not that I wish COVID had happened,
Right.
But it was good because a lot of people started realizing they need to do something about their health and they need to be their own advocate. Nobody else is going to do it for them.
Yeah, right.
And it's like God has given us everything we need to be healthy and survive. And so, I think that's the plus side of it. The negative side is you have now these people that are going to the extreme, and I call it's orthorexia. So basically, they're so hyper focused on don't eat seed oils, don't have any carbohydrates. I'm going to fast for X amount. I'm going to take this supplement. I'm going to red light therapy. And now they get to the point where like they're doing all the things to try to live forever, live longer. And then what happens is they almost kind of isolate and seclude themselves, and it becomes almost like neurotic about it. And then now it's like, well, okay, cool, like you're healthy and things are good, but like you have no quality of life, and it's not just about the physical, it's also about the mental. So I feel like a lot of people are getting too
strict,
and they're getting orthorexic. And
Yeah.
it's like I look at it as like I want to have like a good, like when I die or when I get close to dying, I want to know that like I lived a good life. I enjoyed life. I was able to do the things and travel and just find balance in all of it. I think just people either go from one extreme to the next. And
it's like when you die, you're like, well, it's like when you die. Sorry to interrupt you. I guess I did, but
you're good.
I was gonna say, it's not like you're in good shape. It's not like most people aren't like when Jeff dies, whenever that day is, hopefully a long time from now, they're not probably going to be like, oh man, dude was jacked. Dude lived a crazy healthy lifestyle. Like that isn't what people are going to say about you. Hopefully it's, what kind of a man you were, what you left for your kids, people that you helped. Those are the things that people remember in life. Very rarely. I mean, at some point we're all going to get to a point where like, man, we're never going to be like, happy. And I think that's where, kind of going back to like, cheating or me feeling like that. I'm sure you've heard that many times from just the aspect of like, I'm not, doing enough. And then, you're looking around in the gym and I know I'm not looking at guys my, way younger than me. I'm looking at for the guys that are my age. I'm like, that dude's in great shape. And you're like, okay. And then there's always that kind of that element is like, okay, am I able to get to where he's at, or is he on several things? And it's like, man, it's not even fair to compare yourself to him, because you're like taking some protein and some omega-3s or something, and it's like,
this
bro,
guy's
you're
Jack and Tren,
and you don't know. And so I think that can also be, I think it can be a blessing and a curse in the sense that like it could be an excuse where you're just like, oh man, dude's probably just automatically assume dude's on something and I'll never get there, so what's it worth? And then there's also the opposite where you're like, man, I'm grinding and busting, and it's not fair, because I'm like, and that might just be an individual thing, but
no, I think it's common. I think too with social media, I try not to go on, because I even find myself trying, like you start seeing things or businesses or people or influencers, and like you start trying to, you automatically start comparing, and you're like, well, why am I not, or what do I need to do? And so I think, one, you got to get away from comparison, and I say it quite a bit, especially for, I like females when they come in with their husband, like, run your race. Like let's stack some wins and run your race, or if you're trying to be better in the gym, and like, cool, have those people, like, you're like, yeah, it'd be nice to be like that, but you can, be happy with your wins that you have and your progression that you're making, and start just stack wins on your own and just compete against yourself. It's like, I think, I think all of us do it, right? We always compare ourselves to somebody else, or somebody in the gym. It's just, you don't know, like, maybe, like, unless I work 80 hours a week, I'm sure this guy that's way more lean and ripped than me maybe it doesn't work 80 hours a week. You know, it's like you can't,
Yeah.
you just gotta, just for me, it's like, how can I be better than I was yesterday?
Yeah.
You know, so
That's a good
I
way of looking at
constantly
it.
remind myself, it's just like, just as long as I'm happy, that's all that matters. As long as
Yeah.
I'm, obviously I got to have goals to keep myself happy as a man. I think I
Yeah.
just posted something up. It's like guys are happiest when they have goals and they're,
Yeah.
you know, crushing them. And so you definitely have to have goals, but you know, just don't stop comparing.
Yeah. I just read a book not too long ago by Craig Ballantyne. It's called The Dark Side of Discipline. And it wasn't bashing any like necessary thing, but it was like, all these different challenges, 75 hard. And I've done it. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not saying any of that stuff's bad, but it's like all these challenges, all these weight loss things, all these things. But like none of them ever say like, hey, spend, an hour with your kid tonight.
Yeah.
Or they're like, you're like kind of what you were saying earlier, like you're just crushing all these different things. And I'm like, man, if social media was like, think about CrossFit. I mean,
Yeah.
I swallowed the pill, whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you couldn't post about half of this stuff, like, would you even do it? Like most of this stuff, coincidentally, there's a camera there. If you couldn't post all like your wins, and I mean, I post something every day that I call it Cory 2.0.
Yep.
And it's just kind of for myself to like,
Keeps
and
you
it's,
accountable.
yeah, just it's like kind of like, man, people are gonna be asking you like,
Yeah.
why haven't you been posting? You're not
Yeah.
working out or whatever. But it isn't ever like, I mean, it's like you see my wins and my losses. Like I
Yeah.
post my fat picture too. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like it's never really like
It's not all
never
sunshine and
filtered
rainbows.
or whatever. I do black and white because it's in the morning. But so I mean, going back to like social media and kind of like, can it be a good thing or a bad thing? I think for a lot of people, it can be kind of bad because like I said, if it's almost like they're doing it for like the clicks. And I mean, that's just the world we live in. I know we're never going to be able to get away from that, but it is kind of easy to kind of go down that road of like, oh, this guy, or like if you see somebody that's in shape, I don't know if you do this, but I'll look at like some of the comments and it's like, if anybody's even remotely in shape, they're automatically on this, even if they've like shown their testosterone or whatever, like they're posting this like, no, I'm like legit, just like, this is my lifestyle. Nobody believes it. And so you live in this kind of world of like, and I think it can be bad too, where it's like, I mean, I don't know, is this even possible? Like, am I like going for something that's just like, I mean, you could easily go, oh, these guys are just telling me to keep taking this, but
Well,
like,
and I
I'm
think
not-
that goes back to, that's like, people get stuck, and I would say more bad than good with comparison. And so it's like, I think you just, it's easy to fall into that trap. But you got to go back to like, set your goals and track your goals. And as long as you're progressing forward and doing better like that, it's just, you can't sit there and compare. I'll tell you, that is like you're going to be miserable and unhappy and no good to nobody. So, it's like, trust me, I've been there. I used to like, oh, I got to do this, or I got to hit this PR, or I got to get this much leaner. And it's just like, for what? Like, it's just, if that's what I want, cool, but who cares what people say, think,
right.
or whatever. No one's ever going to be happy or in line with what you do or don't do.
Yeah,
so
that's the premise of that book.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was like somebody else is telling you what this needs to be, whether it's like, if it's your goal legitimately, cool, great.
Yeah.
But like, it's like, there's all these different things where it's like, it's just the next challenge or whatever. And it's not that even say a challenge is bad. It's just,
well, and I kind of, you speaking on that, because I thought it's like the things I like those if it spurs somebody to get into shape. But when you do the 0 to 60, right? And I see this far too often, is people, they go on the 75-day hard, or they go on some type of plan, and they drastic changes, but it was so far away from what they did. And like, you can even say it was 75, and I'm pretty disciplined. Dude, if I had to do everything on there on 75 hard, I can't keep that up. Or my quality of life, my at-home time or my own personal time would suffer and sacrifice quite a bit. And so like, I feel like when you do these rapid change things that are 0 to 60 and so far away from what you do, it's not going to be long-term. You can't create habits. And so like, it's like, and then once again, if there's a reason for it, or you're just like up for the challenge, cool. But I think a lot of people have to prep for the after. And that's the biggest thing. Like, it's kind of like my aftercare is like, people like, all right, I want to lose 30 pounds or 40 pounds or 50 pounds. Well, first off, let's make sure we do it the right way. But two, when you're done, what happens? Once you're done, people are like, woohoo, I'm done. And they right back into what they did before. And it's like, so did you fix a lot of the habits that got you there in the first place,
Right.
and be ready to reverse out of that. So you're not going, making yourself worse off. Cause I'll tell you, in the weight loss world, I've been in forever. Most programs rebound rates are horrendous. They lose 30, 40, 80, 100 pounds. And then within no time, they put it all back on and then some because they did it wrong. They were only focused on like one thing, losing weight or whatever. And then they weren't prepped for the after. They weren't taught for the after, or
Yeah.
it's a mental thing too. Once you crush a goal, you know it. You get to a
Yeah.
goal,
That's always my
and then you
problem.
almost get like what is it? Almost like the depression or the blues because you're like, oh, wait, what
Yeah,
next?
yeah, because like,
You
oh,
know?
everybody was saying you look good, and oh man, you look crazy. You're getting new clothes, your shirt's fitting tighter, and before you know it, like you just become like that's what Jeff looks like. Oh,
Yeah.
I never seen him not in shape, and you're like, oh man. But if somebody has seen you like lose 30
Yeah.
pounds, you're gonna be getting all these compliments, and then you're right, and that's exactly what happened. Like with 75 hard when I did it. It almost like messed me up because while I thought it was good at the time, I mean, it was a fun challenge. I
Yeah.
was actually up, kind of like you said, I was just kind of up for something different. But then like now it's like if I'm not like doing 2 workouts a day or something, I feel like I'm like not doing enough, or I like, it's like sometimes I feel guilty. Like let's say on a lazy Saturday, like I mean, if I were just to get up and go work out and eat a healthy breakfast and eat, keep my numbers. There's like part of me that like feels like laying around on a Saturday though, like there's something wrong with me. Like, man, I better like go for a run, or I need to go do something, or man, maybe if I do this, I'll, get my results faster or something. But like you said, at the end of the day, sometimes it's like, yeah, is that maybe like a burnout, or
Yeah.
then
Well,
get to
you
a
got to
point.
listen to your body, but I'm big into scheduling off time. Like most people don't. It's like they don't schedule either a deload week or they don't schedule an off day. Sundays for me, I try to keep it
Just
church
chill.
and family. And like, if my kid wanted to go to the gym, cool, we'll go, I'll take them. But like, I try not to, that's usually my day to just decompress and just be, I still eat decent. That's just who I am. I kind
Yeah,
of, I've gotten away from, but that's years and years of
like
consistency and
practice.
compliance to just, it's second nature. And so I always tell people it's hard to get to that point. So you can't do it overnight. And so I'm a big fan of let's set a goal, a small goal. Obviously, still have your big goal, but you got to set these small goals and just consistently just crush little wins. And I'm telling you, they lead to such more bigger long term wins.
Yeah,
It's like I try not to even shoot for the fence. I'm just gonna hit singles.
yeah,
Just hit
right.
singles every single day.
Yeah, just one run in at a time. So if somebody's wanting to lose weight, and they're either like even like someone for like myself, like I don't. I mean, I think that there's always like, there's always somebody that wants to look like you. Maybe I want to look like you. There's somebody out there's like, dude, Cory, if I just look like you, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like I'd be, and on down the line, right? And so again, kind of comparing yourself, it's like, be realistic and like
Yeah.
where you want to be. But I know like personally, like I'm very healthy as far as like the numbers go and all that stuff. But like if you're not happy with your like aesthetics or whatever, I think that might be a misconception too. Is like, if somebody wants to lose weight and they want to come in and use your service at Nuviva, I mean, I think a lot of people think like, oh, weight loss clinic, I must need to lose like 30, 50 pounds.
Right. Yeah.
Like, what's your take on that? Like, I mean,
I mean, I have people come in for, I mean, it's all relative, right? Somebody who's small that naturally never really been overweight, if they got, a female that has 10 or 15 pounds because of a baby or menopause is no different than somebody who's got 105 pounds. It's
right.
like for them, they're not comfortable. So, we do help. Obviously, now if I feel like somebody's unhealthy already coming through the door, we're gonna talk to them about, obviously, let's focus on like restructuring your food and getting some things to kind of support your metabolism, peptides you could do to pick up metabolic rate. But I think a lot of it is just what I do in the program so remedial. It's textbook nutrition. But a lot of people need accountability.
Yeah.
And that's what I provide is I provide the accountability. Obviously a little bit of, I would say I have like, I'm textbook nutrition and I can't change people's habits overnight. So I change it a little bit as they go
Right.
through the program. I still kind of do a lot of cool things internal to keep the system in line or get things back in line, get the gut in line. Some nutraceuticals to support them when they're on a deficit, teach them about why they should do certain things,
Right.
not focusing on weight loss, but fat loss. And then ultimately getting them to be self-sufficient. But a lot of it's, I don't prescribe to any one diet. It's not keto, carnivore. I do use some protocols in the program, but my goal is to get people to understand get away from skipping meals, how to control your sugar when certain types of food, how to understand calories, which for weight management, calories are going to manage your weight. So most people don't even know that basic,
Right.
how to look at a food label, how to know calories. And then, once they get towards the end, I show them how to tie it all together into what they're going to do. Because if I take you so far away from what you're going to do, you're probably not going to do it long term. So it's like, how can I take you with where you're at this moment in time and kind of work with what you're used to, what foods you like, and show you it's not difficult. It's not rocket science, but most people, I think, overcomplicate it. Now it's just like, well, shoot, what do I do? Should I go on carnivore? Should I go on keto?
Yeah.
Should I do intermittent fasting? It's like they just,
Right.
everyone sees a person or a influencer.
And that worked for them. So
Yeah,
like, oh,
it's
maybe I
just,
should do it.
yeah, I always say for me, I just try to help people understand like the process of, and then ultimately I'm big into, I like to use analogies, and my dad was a youth pastor growing up, but I was like, I teach people how to fish. I don't give them the fish.
Yeah,
And
sure.
so like I'm big into like really empowering people to be able to understand. So my goal is to get, I used to get mad when clients would go through the program and lose a good amount of weight, get to where they want, they be good for a while, and then life happens or they get kicked in the face and someone passes away, they lose a job. It's easy for people to fall back into old habits. And so when they would come back, I'm like, man, I failed, and I was like, but I started realizing like the rebound rate for most programs is pretty bad in the country. And my
Yeah.
people are never come back with 100% weight gain, but it's because I taught them how to fish.
Yeah.
Now, them sticking with it or staying consistent and compliant
Right.
over time, that's going to be on them. I could
Yeah.
lead them to water. I just can't make them
Right.
drink.
That isn't really your fault, even though maybe you're
I still take it personal, but that's kind of why I've always like, hence next, it's like
Yeah.
that aftercare program is like, all right, I'm going to like really have a whole team that's all they do is like help that person transition back into life and be there. So like if they stumble or fall, we could pick them back up.
Yeah, I think, because I think too, sometimes even if you're like trying to learn how to, I think I personally struggle with this, like, how to incorporate like a cheat meal, and when I say cheat meal, I don't mean like, some people like when I was a trainer and stuff like that, like they think a cheat meal is like dinner out, ice cream, drinks, pre-dinner, like it's like basically like, let me try to get in,
Whatever I can.
that 2 weeks, let me try to get all the calories that I missed out. And it's like, I'm just saying like, incorporating some cheat meals in there, but then there's also like some people like, no cheat meals.
Yeah.
And then like, they'll say, oh, well, once you get to where you want to go, then you can have a cheat meal because your body, like you look good. You can learn how to have a cheat meal and get right back on it. And
I'd rather implement them during the process. So there's actually something that happens, and I could tell you just everyone who's dieted for any length of time, after about 2 to 3 weeks, you see your body stalemate or stall. And one, it could be obviously if you're not setting your food right or training too hard, your body adapts pretty quick. But what happens is we have a hormone in our body called leptin, which is basically it's kind of like thermostat on the wall that governs what our body uses or how our body uses our fat. And so after about 2 to 3 weeks on a caloric deficit, things slow down. A lot of times the bigger you are, you may go a little bit longer. But you get to the point where you're tired. You're lethargic because you've been in a calorie deficit, and your body gets to a point where like, hey, we haven't had food, pump the brakes on using the fat, let's slow things down. And so that slows a lot of people up. And I'll tell you, people who do go at it alone tend to end up like they stick with it, nothing happens, stick with it, nothing happens, then they just give up. Right. So where I teach people is like, let's put some food back in. Let's talk to you about refeeding your system. Let's pick your metabolism up. And usually the first like free meal, I call them refeed meals, are meant to kind of re-stimulate, get calories in, get carbohydrates in. Plus, just if I tell you right now, Cory, hey, we're not gonna, you're gonna go 16 weeks, you're not gonna cheat once, you're gonna cheat.
Yeah.
And so if I say like, hey, Cory, give me 2 weeks and then we'll plan for something. And hey, when's your birthday? We're gonna plan for that to be normal.
Yeah.
And show those people how to have some bad times and bookend them with good times, but also too, just metabolically, I could break plateaus by refeeding your system. Now, whether it's a bunch of crap food or a bunch of good food, they're going to do the same thing, and you might feel worse on the other, but it also gets people away from going really big. When you kind of get them on a plan and you get them away from the crap, when they put the crap in, they don't feel good. So then now all of a sudden they're like, oh, okay, maybe I'll still do it because it worked and I was able to keep moving, but maybe it's not going to be as bad. I'm not going to sit there and crush a whole pizza and a bottle of wine.
Right.
It's like, all right, maybe I'll have 2 pieces of pizza and not drink the wine. And I'll be fine. So, just teaching some of the balance, because if you don't, eventually once you do, it's kind of like you let the dog out of the cage, and it's not good.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the accountability for someone out there, like, and like I said, I've been in the industry some. I mean, not on Jeff's level in any way, but I think that is a lot of it. Because I mean, can you find a free plan? But to my argument, to anybody that's like, I mean, if you've never done it, maybe try the free plan. But I mean, like, if it ends up being there's a common denominator here, you've tried this, you've tried that. I know that's me. I've tried this, tried that, but it ends up being like, no, I was like, you need somebody to, hold you accountable. Then that's where I would suggest, and maybe you would as well. Now, with your weight loss, I mean, can anybody, I mean, is this just a local thing, or can somebody get help?
No, so I'm mostly Southwest Florida. So from Orlando down, we have collective 10 locations, but I do out of Naples, and that's part of my next is I'm able to do a remote program. It is nowhere near as successful as the in-house program where you check in weekly, you see a coach weekly, you see a nurse weekly. Like you can't trump that.
Sure.
But I could still probably do better from a distance. You still check in weekly, phone call weekly,
online,
and making adjustments. Obviously, I'm limited on certain things that I could do in clinic versus out of clinic, but I've pretty much put together years ago, and now I have a separate team that's handling the at-home programs, and they're doing great. So I do have the option to help, depending on the state. There's certain states I can't help out, but I do prefer most people come in clinic because you're going to get the best experience.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, there's no contracts. I'm big on this. Like I almost made it to where I have to earn the client's business. If they're getting results and they're seeing, success, they're going to keep coming.
Yeah.
And that's the accountability side of things, the financial. I didn't want it to be like some other people
6-month program,
right? And then
like,
once they mess up, they're like, well, I already spent the money and I'm done. Like you pay weekly as you go. You do good, cool. If not, like, fire me. I don't.
That's cool. That's cool. I think that's a lot of people like, they're afraid. They're also maybe intimidated when somebody's like, it's a 6-month program. You're like, bro, like just making this phone call was, like a big step for me to like just ask for help or whatever. Now with T clinics, we talked about this earlier, but I want to make sure that I get this in there because our time's already coming up. But obviously, if someone's local, like what's your advice to either a guy or girl out there that's questioning, like I've been in there, like you're not sure, if this is good, you're not sure about peptides, they freak you out a little bit. You're thinking what's going to happen to me in 20 years? And, all the stuff that you don't think about with alcohol, smoking, chewing, all the bad food, and like what's going to be like in 20 years. But what's your advice to them?
I mean, with anyone looking to, whether you're local or you're in another state, I'm big into make sure you at least once a year get comprehensive blood work, not just basics. If you're past, I would say if you're past like 35, start looking at hormones. If you guys ever have questions, I have no problem. Like if you got a provider that's going to write, I'll tell you what we typically look at. But getting a good snapshot to see where things are at, and then so you could be proactive in making some of the necessary adjustments. And then just making sure whoever you go to, and like I said, I always tell people whether you go to me or somebody else, I don't care as long as you're going to the right place that's taking care of you. Just make sure they're very specific. It's not just some cookie cutter, everybody gets the same thing, because it's with hormones, it can't be that way. And I felt like that's why I feel like in men and female hormones, it can't be done cookie cutter. It's not, it'll be mediocre, and you're going to have 50% of the population do amazing. Another 50 are going to have some problems. And so just it's your health. So definitely make sure you do your due diligence. Make sure that you at least once a year, don't sleep on your blood work. That I think a lot of people, out of even like wanting to check hormones, is just check your markers once a year regardless, and don't put a blind eye to it, because like you got a lot of people that just don't want to know. And then by the time something comes up, sometimes it's too late, or it's going to be very, very hard to fix that. So, I just urge most people, just stay on top of your health, do your lab work. If you got other issues, what can you do to start reversing some of the problems, that are already present? I just had a guy the other day call, and, he was not wanting to go to the cardiologist, and I finally got him to do a CT heart scan, and then came back high, and then he did a CTA, which shows a little bit deeper. And the guys definitely he needs to overhaul his life, but he was like forever dragging his feet, and it ran in his family. And he's he's become a friend over time. And like, he's like, man, I wish I would have done something sooner. And, that was forever me in the hospital, seeing people on their deathbed in critical care. It's like, I wish I would have done something, or I wish I would have just, like, the best way to get, ahead of it is to be proactive and check it.
Yeah.
Don't, and then find somebody who understands, they're not just more functional, I guess, that's going to truly try to see, like, symptom medication. Let's go, well, what's the problem? Let's work from the back. Let's kind of reverse it out and make sure that you're kind of, there's a lot of stuff you can do on your own that are natural. And then other things you might have to intervene with medications, but just don't sleep on it.
Yeah, I was going to say, kind of as we start wrapping up here, I think for guys, now this is just my own opinion, you could probably confirm this, or I'd like to hear your take on it. There's a lot of guys as they age, I kind of feel like, with women, there's things women do cosmetically and stuff. I don't know if it's more accepted, and I don't mean anything by this, but I mean, whether it's, getting work done, or I don't know how to say it properly.
Botox.
Botox, like just things that they kind of do to kind of keep that. It's like accepted in like a lot of women. It's, kind of normal, but with guys, I kind of feel like they're like, well, you're supposed to like get kind of old and get a belly and kind of sleep and take naps and feel lazy and get, all this different stuff. And I think that, even as myself, I've always kind of tried to, like, trying to stay like, youthful as much as I can, even like with the way I dress, or, just trying to stay, not stuck in like, stuck in my ways, like when I was wearing the same stuff I was wearing in high school or whatever, but try to adapt and, things like that. But wouldn't you say that, would you think that that's more uncommon? Like with, like, going back to, I guess what I'm trying to say with men is, like, they think that, like, there's not something out there for them, or there's not something that they can do to just feel. I'm not saying every guy has to want to be jacked. But
it's not. Well, I know where you're going with this. So, like, you're kind of saying, like a lot of guys think going on testosterone is about being jacked or fit or in shape, and it's not. Like, hormone therapy is to replace or fix the deficiency that your body has that's creating problems, right? So I say testosterone for men is more so to make you the guy you used to be, to be able to kind of do the things you wish you were doing that maybe you're not doing anymore, just improve your overall quality of life. One of the byproducts, if you do eat better and eat more protein and you physically get active, you're probably going to look a lot better. But at the end of the day, it's more like you just want to be a better man, better husband, better father, be able to kind of be around and be present and be able to stay physically active. I think that's my biggest thing, is like, as I get older, I've gotten away from trying to be jacked and juicy, right? Like, now it's like, I want to feel good, function good. I want to be able to kind of still hang out with my kid and do stuff. And, I don't want to be crippled when I'm older. I'm going to try to extend the years, but more so the quality years on the back end, and so it's more just trying to slow down the aging process that's going to happen anyways. And it's like, if you don't do nothing about it, it'll snowball really fast. So I think one of the big things is, whether you look at your hormones, if they're off, you could try to fix them. You can't fix them, you replace them. That's probably the biggest game changer for men. That's the reason why we deteriorate and fall apart and just kind of lose that zest for life and the stuff that we used to do. Females, like I said, usually more hormone therapy is needed, more like closer to menopause, perimenopause, postmenopause. One game changer for females is actually getting their natural growth hormone back up. Females actually dip down earlier in life.
Oh, wow.
So I'll tell you, if I had to, like, pick one thing as a female outside of, like, making sure hormones are good, is getting your natural growth hormone up. They sleep better, skin, hair, nails are better. You don't maybe have to spend so much money on cosmetic stuff. So that's kind of always my bread and butter go-to. And most women do amazing with, like, growth hormone peptides, not growth hormone. But like I said, it's you should do something. You should look at it and then at least fix the primary thing that potentially could accelerate how fast you deteriorate or age.
Okay, got it. So Jeff, wrapping up, like, where can people find you? You do good on social. Like, I love some of the stitches that you do with like things that are trending. So those are really good. Yeah. Those are just kind of a fun way to show that, you're just a normal guy and having fun with fitness. But, like, where can everybody find you?
So on social, I try to put out real information is my goal with that. We were talking about earlier, is like, I've tried to be very quiet and I'm not the guy to be on, podcasts or social media, but I feel like there's somebody needs to put out good information. So at JRD3 Lanes is my main, at Nuviva Medical Weight Loss, or actually it's Nuviva Weight Loss, at T Clinics USA. And it's pretty much the websites are exactly how that's written. So,
Okay.
I always say if you've been there, you're trying to do something, you've tried it on your own and you're struggling or need help, we're here to help. But for the most part, I always say like fix your food, your sleep, and your training, and then see what's left over. And then if you still need help, call us.
Gotcha. Well, we'll make sure to put all that stuff in the show notes. And the last thing I always ask my guests on the brighter side here is what's something that you're working on either spiritually, physically, financially, in the future that you're currently working on to kind of get excited about?
I got a couple things in the works. I think the big thing is, probably to be able to get more information out to really educate people. I truly just do this to help people. I feel like, my dad growing up, and this is kind of forever, for me, like my life, I guess, he's like, find a way to help people. And he's like, take care of people and you'll forever be taken care of in the eyes of the Lord. Sometimes not monetarily or the way the world sees it, but usually if you take care of people, you'll be fulfilled forever, indefinitely. But then, usually the rest follows. So, I think it's just, I truly feel my callings to help people figure out or navigate, health and wellness and nutrition. So, I think the big thing for me is trying to put more information out. I am working on a potential documentary that hopefully will be a game changer across the board and cover a lot of bases and really take away confusion in the world of nutrition and dieting. So I'm excited for that.
That'll be cool. Yeah, you were kind of telling me about that, so I won't share any more about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what you can say, what you not say, but it sounds really cool. So obviously, we'll help you push that if that ever gets to that point. But we'll make sure to have all Jeff's stuff in the show notes. Thank you so much for being on the show, man. I feel like there's like so many questions I wasn't going to answer, but Jeff's really responsive too on social media. So if you got some questions or something quick, I'm sure you could reach out to him. He'll answer it if he can. And if not, he might say, hey, you got to come in at some point so I can really help you. But I appreciate you being on the show, man. Thank you so much for your time. And I've never heard anybody, here in town really say anything bad about you at all. So, I mean, you're doing a good thing. So, just to kind of confirm, you have a great reputation and just someone that I was excited to have on. I've had you on my board for a while and finally our schedules lined up to where it works. So thank you so much. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button, help us out. Our channel's growing like crazy. So make sure to hit that bell if you want to get notified of when our shows are dropping. You can find us on Apple, on Spotify, all the places you can hear podcasts. So go check it out. We'll see you guys on the next one.